Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 10 of the My Favorite LJN tournament. Today we are going to be continuing on with round 1, and we're going to feature a majority, or not a majority, but a good chunk of the Wrestling Writer figures. So a lot of figures that I have from Wrestling Writer are customs to original LJNs, repaints, what have you. So we actually skipped over a large portion right here of figures that have already been shown previously. So we actually started on the last third or so of the shelf, and we're working our way down to about halfway through shelf number 4. So we do have 8 matchups here. There are a couple matchups that I'm going to be really disappointed about because we're going to lose 2 exceptional pieces, and one of them is actually a round 4, round 5 type figure, and I'll explain as we get closer, as we bring up that matchup. So the first matchup we're going to be looking at, these 2 figures both came from Kevin. I don't remember his last name, but Kevin from Print Fury. And it does feature Earthquake, both red and blue version. So I think I put like a $90 bid in for this guy, maybe. I think they're selling at like $105, $110. And they're both resin figures. And in case they weren't willing to sell this one, I also put another $90 bid in for this one. He accepted both offers, so I went and purchased both of them. Which, I really only wanted one, but, I mean, as I got them, I'm obviously very glad that I got both. Because, again, a paint change makes it a completely different figure. But other than the paint job, I mean, everything else is 100% identical. So I think what was happening originally is I thought that this was like a Series 3 Earthquake with blue. And I thought maybe that was like Typhoon or something. Which is stupid of me because I do remember Earthquake in this exact getup as he tag teamed with Typhoon. So both Earthquake figures, love them both. Again, they're resin figures, which kills it for me. I think I do have a few resin figures, not a whole lot, but obviously, I prefer the rubber figures over the resin. To me, resin it's like ceramic or whatnot, and you drop it, it's gonna crack. If it doesn't shatter into a bunch of pieces, you are going to leave a nice little, crack mark down the arm, legs, head, whatever. So, this is actually a more difficult choice because, I mean, again, they're both the same figure, so it's really hard to choose. The paint job on both are remarkable. I obviously love the ones that have dual colors. To me, that obviously means so much. But in this particular battle, I am going to select the same, shark type Earthquake that you would find in the Series 3 Hasbro figures. So blue Earthquake moves forward to round 2. So I mentioned when I was doing the original version of Hercules that I was going to do things differently this time than what I did the first time. So the first time I had the Hercules original LJN, and then I had a couple custom Hercules that, were side by side. So when I did my tournament the first time back in March, I had all 3 of those Hercules figures square off, and I chose the best one from that to move on to the next round. And this time around, I switched it up because they're different molds, different fighting poses. I'm going to make them all their own unique character, all their unique figure. So that technically gave Hercules three chances to move forward in this competition. The first Hercules, the original LJN, did not move past round 1. So we go into the Wrestling Writer Hercules with accessory. And I could never get this accessory wrapped... forget it. I can never get it wrapped around his body correctly for display purposes, but this is an absolutely gorgeous piece, and yeah, that one's resin as well. Which, if this was a rubber mold, this would be one of the ideal figures. Very similar to the Random Treasures Ultimate Warrior. His arms I think are a little bit higher up than the Ultimate Warrior, but the face mold and the hair of this figure, 3D printed, 100% perfect to the actual wrestler, to the actual person. And body type of the figure is absolutely remarkable. And again, he does have a really good fighting pose. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I would prefer the arms to be lower, of course, but I mean, it's still a very playable figure. Now, this figure, of course, you're not going to use it because of it is meant for display only. But either way, it still looks fantastic. He does go up against another, well, they're all Wrestling Writer, but this one is the Ravishing Rick Rude. And so I talked about it in the last video. With Random Treasures basically overcharging for a lot of their figures, you can go through Wrestling Writer, get some of the most elite figures you can find, and you're basically paying a fraction of the price. And I love Random Treasures. Don't get me wrong, I've said it before, but I try to give as much honest feedback as I can. And a lot of their figures haven't really been exciting me lately, but there's never been a point where I've looked at a Wrestling Writer figure and didn't have excitement from that figure. So the Paul Orndorff figure, for the most part, it fits for Rick Rude because of the body type. It fits beautifully for his physique. And the Paul Orndorff figure isn't a bad figure for fighting, for playability. Obviously, you would like the arms lower for body slams and clotheslines, punches, and all that, but this is still a fine figure. Actually, it's one of my favorites because in this battle, there's just no way you could possibly move Rick Rude past Hercules. He's basically one and done in this round or in this competition. But don't get it wrong, this is a phenomenal figure. Definitely one of my favorites and a highlight of the Rick Rude figures. And this is another one I was talking about. When I did the tournament the first time, again, he was sitting right next to the LJN original Rick Rude, and those two squared off, and he moved on to round 2. This time around, with me not selecting figures, they could be the same wrestler. That's fine. If they don't have the same body type or fighting pose, I will consider them completely different for this time around. So this time again, he's a one and done figure, which sucks. Because this one deserves to be talked about more often. So Hercules, we'll move on to round 2. One of my all-time favorite figures. Doesn't matter if it's original. Doesn't matter who the customizer is, who the character is, what the fighting pose is. The Wrestling Writer Ultimate Warrior. So everything about Random Treasures is almost identical to this figure. Obviously, this has a Hulk Hogan body type, so this is a much better figure fighting-wise than the Random Treasures. And I think he has much better design of the flaps on his boots. The only thing that Random Treasures really does better, for the most part, is they have like the little orange Ultimate Warrior mask on the knee pads. But other than that, I mean, this is almost an identical figure between the two. And again, of all the Ultimate Warrior figures, this one is my favorite because you're basically putting 2 in 1. You're putting a phenomenal character in the Ultimate Warrior, and you're including him on the Hulk Hogan body type, which is, again, makes this a absolute perfect wrestling figure. And this is one that went extremely far in my competition last time around, and almost to the end. He was almost the winner. That's how good this figure is. But does he get the opportunity to move forward, given the fact that he is going up against another phenomenal figure? So, again, they are sticking with the Paul Orndorff body type. And again, I said it before, you don't have to cut off limbs or create brand new rubber to create whole new figures. Paint jobs, paint changes, I mean, that's all it takes, and you create a whole new character, a whole new figure, and it's amazing. Is it as good as the Warlord from LJN? I like the LJN Warlord better, but that's because, his arms are in a better fighting position. This is an absolute beauty. This is one of the very first customs I received from Wrestling Writer. So the first figure I ever bought from him was a Terry Funk, and then after that I started getting my customs from him. So at one point I got the Ultimate Warrior from him. I got the Mr. Perfect. I got 2 Powers of Pain customs. So I got 4 customs, and then I got a Mr. Fuji in. And after that, I got the Bret Hart, and I got the Rick Rude figure that I bought. So, and of course, the collection just exploded after that, and Wrestling Writer became one of my go-to sellers for LJNs. This is a beauty. Don't get it wrong. Great fighting pose with the Paul Orndorff figure pose. His arms, again, he's not quite as ripped, so this body pose fits better for Rick Rude than it would for Warlord, but this is still an incredible piece, and dare I say, an elite figure among the Wrestling Writer collections. But again, love the figure, but you're talking about probably a top 5 of everything that you see back here. Originals, Raider Nation, Robert Jackson, Move Over Swanson, anybody that you could think of that sells action figures. Anything that I bought, this is probably a top 5 figure for me. Absolutely love it. Ultimate Warrior moves past Warlord. Alright, next one is also Powers of Pain. And this time they chose a Jesse Ventura. Much love the Paul Orndorff over a Jesse Ventura any day. Barbarian, great figure, not as good as the Warlord figure. Oh, excuse me. But, I mean, definitely, paint-wise, it's still a fantastic figure. Nothing wrong with it. It's just that the Jesse Ventura pose isn't one of my favorites, so that kind of takes away the display for me, or the appreciation, but it's still, like I said, it's a fantastic figure. Love it a lot. This one has a good chance of moving forward to the next round, even though he has a less playable pose than the last one, than the Warlord. This could be a second rounder. In this matchup, he does square off against the British Bulldog. So, Davey Boy Smith, the only thing, well, there's 2 things about this figure that stand out to me. So, the first thing is like this Ted RCD Bam Bam Bigelow fighting pose, which, again, I'm not a fan of. His head, it kind of looks like somebody squished it in like that. But other than that, I mean, the face, it's a beautiful replica, and the hair with the bushiness of the back of the hair is absolutely phenomenal. Incredible piece. The color scheme, but the artistry and technique they put into this figure is absolutely fantastic. Again, I have a few different British Bulldog figures because they're different poses or whatnot. I'm going to keep them separate. So you do have an opportunity for multiple British Bulldog figures to move forward. And of course, from the LJN original British Bulldogs, I chose the Robert Jackson custom. So we have both Davey Boy and Dynamite Kid with these color schemes in round 2. So you could potentially have 4 different British Bulldog figures. 3 Davey Boy, 1 Dynamite Kid in round 2. Is the British Bulldog a better figure than Barbarian? I don't know necessarily based on this which one would have a better fighting pose. I mean, I'm not a fan of this particular pose, but you really can't fight with the hands down like that. It makes it an unplayable figure, which drives me nuts. Absolute gorgeous piece for a collector, display wise. You really can't do better than this. That is just so phenomenal. And British Bulldog, to me, he's always been one of the most elite wrestlers in the business. I talked about in several videos ago the 1995 Royal Rumble, and I wanted to wait to talk about that Rumble because I wanted to wait for this particular figure. So it's very rare for a wrestler to come in at number 1 and win the whole tournament, win the whole Royal Rumble contest. So in 1995, Shawn Michaels broke that record when he came in at number 1 and ended up winning the whole entire competition. But what sucks about Royal Rumbles is when you have a number 1 guy and the number 2 guy, they come into the ring, they're basically in the ring for the exact same amount of time. So if you've got your first two guys in there and it's 30 minutes later, they're harping on the number one pick. Oh yeah, he's been in 30 minutes, but they don't say anything about the number two guy, and that's so frustrating. Not only was that contest unique because Shawn Michaels was the first number one entrant to win the entire Rumble, but it also featured Davey Boy Smith, British Bulldog, at number two, and he was the last man in there before being eliminated by Shawn Michaels. And again, he actually would have eliminated Shawn Michaels, and it's a common theme. You see it in wrestling all the time. He throws out Shawn Michaels. Michaels doesn't touch the floor. He's celebrating. Shawn Michaels comes and clobbers him. He falls out of the ring. Shawn Michaels wins. Either way, first two in, last two out. Incredible Royal Rumble for that purpose. Other than that, in the first 15 or so folks in, wasn't really a memorable Royal Rumble for the most part. But because of that scenario, it made it one of my top picks for Royal Rumble contest. So again, British Bulldog, he holds a lot of meaning in my life. Barbarian, good figure. He will not surpass the British Bulldog for this battle. Davey Boy moves on to round two. So that is 4 matchups in, and we've got 3 matchups to go. This is not an easy contest. This one actually really sucks. And I think of all of the battles thus far, this is probably the most difficult. So for the first one, we have... can't ever keep his belts on. So the first one we're looking at is the Texas Tornado Kerry Von Erich. An absolutely phenomenal figure. The only thing that keeps it from being 100% perfect, you guessed it, arm positioning / fighting pose. So this one is a resin figure, but you look at the face mold and the hair of the figure. I mean, I know I say this about a lot of figures, top 5, top 6, but at least at the time that I'm saying it, it's true. But I'm sure if I go back and actually watch all those videos that I say about all the figures I'm talking about, it's probably going to be like 15 figures, but this really is an elite figure based on the head sculpt. Body type wise, looks really sharp. I mean, for display, the arms being out like that, it's really good. And, simple coloring, but it works. This is an absolute elite figure. Not just for among the random treasure or among the wrestling writer figures, but it's an elite figure, period, among my collection. So I have a Ric Flair, Tito Santana-esque figure, and he has a lot of championship belts, and he runs into the same issue. Championship belts are always falling off the arms because the arms are down like that, and that's where a fighting pose like this comes into play, because at least this type, you can hold on to the belt, and that's why I say the positioning of the arms is what keeps this from being a 100% perfect figure. Otherwise, you've got the cream of the crop with this Kerry Von Erich figure. And the first time I did this competition, I'm not going to say whether or not he was eliminated, but what I will say is this figure went towards the end. You can read into it what you will. In this particular battle, he will go against possibly the most expensive figure I've ever bought. Actually, you know what? Recently, I take that back. I think nowadays, the most expensive figure I ever bought was a blue trunk Ric Flair carded original San Francisco toy maker figure. So I missed out on the Jimmy Hart figure, which I put in a bid of over $1,100. That was the dark skinned Jimmy Hart from original San Francisco. And I had to settle for the blue trunk Ric Flair figure. And again, they have so many different. They've got like a dark blue, they've got like a purple, they've got a red, they've got a green, and then they got that sky blue, or baby blue Ric Flair, which is super rare. I'd still much rather have the dark skinned Jimmy Hart, but again, in order to complete the collection, you still need to get all the figures. So, and I paid $500, $600. I can't remember. I'm gonna say $600 because I don't remember. And with shipping and sellers, what do you call it? So shipping and taxes, and I think they put I forget. Did they put on here? I don't know. Anyways, at one point, this was the most expensive figure that I ever purchased, and it was like $250, and I don't know, taxes and stuff, 270 plus. To me, it was absolutely worth it for an abundance of reasons. One, face sculpt, absolutely gorgeous. Right off the bat, outstanding vest, and the boots are among my elite figures. I absolutely love the Bruiser Brody, and I didn't know much about this figure. So when I bought it, I was kind of going in blindly. So he told me, give me kind of like a backstory, history of the character, and Bruiser Brody and Abdullah Butcher. They had some of the most bloody matches you'll see, and I found a couple YouTube videos where they kind of go at it, and he kind of reminds me, I don't know, I think the Berserker from WWF later on in the 90s when Hasbro came out. I think Berserker was actually imitating the Bruiser Brody character. This is an absolutely phenomenal figure, and the simple fact that they give him this Greg Valentine fighting pose, it just really ties in the whole overall figure. Now here is the toughest decision of the entire competition so far. Who do you choose? I mean, obviously I covet the fighting pose on a Bruiser Brody more than the Texas Tornado figure, but I think the head sculpt is better on Texas Tornado. In this case, there isn't a wrong answer. They're both phenomenal figures. I am going with Bruiser Brody to move forward to round 2. And Texas Tornado, this should have been like a 5th or 6th round figure at least. And getting eliminated in the very first round, I mean, that right there is just absolutely gut-wrenching. And in a tournament like this, it's all luck of the draw, unfortunately. And he just went against one of the elite figures. Bruiser Brody defeats Texas Tornado, Kerry Von Erich. So here's one of those figures I was talking about with all the championship bouts. So one of the first Ric Flair figures I bought. And again, he's got that Tito Santana pose, which I was not a fan of. But with a man with all these championship belts, that's really the only time I would really probably accept, like a Jesse Ventura pose because of the arm positioning for the excess belts. But in the face, I mean, that is a Ric Flair. And, it's still a very playable figure. I mean, I'm not a fan of the Tito Santana pose, but you can still use it nonetheless. And, very simple coloring for the most part. And, again, this man was like, 16-time champion, 20-time champion, 24. I mean, I've heard different numbers or read different numbers on different blogs and articles and stuff, so it is what it is. It's a figure. I didn't have a Ric Flair at the time that I bought this, so it was nice to add a Ric Flair to the collection. But he goes up against an absolute beast of a figure. And I talk about King Kong Bundy being so exceptionally heavy as an LJN. This one, I do believe, that one is resin as well. So this one has a lot of weight to it, even more than the King Kong Bundy. And stupid me, when I first saw this figure, I really liked it a lot, but because I kept looking at it, I kept seeing King Kong Bundy, I didn't jump at the chance to buy it. And I obviously, talking about it over the last several months, I'm ashamed about that because this turned out to be one of my top 10 favorite wrestling writer custom figures. So, for starters, yeah, he's got the King Kong Bundy face. Sure enough, you actually look at him in real life, he actually looks like that. And he got the nice little scars on top of his forehead here. I love, again, the little glue packets that attaches the championship belt to the figure. And what's really awesome is Abdullah the Butcher used to hide these forks inside his pants. And so when he's fighting someone and either gets in trouble or just wants to get as much damage in as possible, he whips out that fork and stabs him. And to actually have a built-in fork for the figure was phenomenal. And I'm really hoping that this figure gets to go 4, 5, 6 rounds, because I absolutely love this one. And will it make it all the way to the finals? You know what? I think right now, based on all the figures I've looked at, this has as close of a chance to making it to the final 2, final 4, what have you, as any other figure that we've looked at. Absolutely phenomenal figure. I mean, there's not even a question as to whether or not this one will push past Ric Flair. Now, this one, again, as resin, you're simply using it for display. You're never going to give this to your kids. And even if this was a rubber figure, the way that he's got the belt attached, and of course the built-in accessory, you wouldn't want to use it anything other than display purposes anyway. So again, give you like one full 360. And King Kong Bundy, it is a perfect a usage of a figure, because they both have the same build, and I think Abdullah Butcher might actually have been heavier. He was just a massive guy. Abdullah Butcher, round 2, eliminates Ric Flair. So that was 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 matches. Number 7. Another absolutely massive figure, and I think they stick with the King Kong Bundy family, is to create a Dusty Rhodes. Now, when you actually look at this championship belt, what I like about it, it actually says Dusty Rhodes right here at the bottom. And as you swing around, this championship belt is massive. In order to fit it around his waist, you have to have like this super long championship belt. And they did have to do some cuts here and there. Obviously, take a Bundy and use some different poses. Maybe use a Hillbilly Jim or something. I don't know. But if they take a King Kong Bundy, and this is one of the things that I commissioned Eric, Wrestling Writer, to do, is to take a King Kong Bundy and put the arms of a Big John Stud on him and create basically a perfect figure in my eyes. And obviously it can be done. So this one, this one's resin too. This isn't a rubber figure, but I don't know how he's going to do it. But once that's complete, I'm so excited about seeing that one. And if I'm able to get that in the coming weeks, before I make any other videos, I could still add that to this competition. And this is a great pose. I mean, it's not perfect, but you could still do body slams. Kind of like, because it's not rubber, you can't really move the hand in to kind of make it like a two-hand body slam. But this is still a very playable, very fightable figure. Again, resin, it's for display only. It still looks phenomenal. And Dusty Rhodes is an icon of wrestling. In this battle, he will square off against Mick Foley or Cactus Jack. This one went extremely far in my competition last time. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, I believe at the time Cactus Jack squared off against the Sting figure from Wrestling Writer, and Sting was a fantastic figure, but I actually had Cactus Jack defeat him, and Cactus Jack went multiple rounds in that tournament. So this is a figure that I think very highly of. And this one, Lou Albano, if I'm not mistaken. So they obviously had to rechange the face and everything of the figure. That's fine. Still looks nice. Great color overall for the shirt. And even the t-shirt, which I can't really read, but wanted or something like that on there. I can't read the bottom part of it, but it's an absolutely beautiful figure for display. And I thought this one was rubber, but it feels resin. Like the hands are movable, so part of it's rubber. I don't know. I mean, can they actually do partial rubber and resin? But then again, there are a lot of figures that I have that are rubber, but because of the type of glue that they put on the figure, it makes it feel like this. You could actually tell this is hard enough that this is a resin figure. So, two great figures. Again, this one went several rounds in my tournament last time, and I don't even think this one made it past the first round. The first time I did these videos, first time I did this tournament. That's about to change. Cactus Jack is getting eliminated the first time around in this tournament, and once again, luck of the draw. And we are going to see Dusty Rhodes in round 2. So 31 minutes, not bad. Try to keep it around 30 minutes, and it worked beautifully this time around. I'm not going to talk too much here at the end, guys, so I will close here. And I'm not going to make another video. I've made 3 videos tonight, and I think that's good. That should take me through October. In fact, it should probably take me through November based on the amount of videos I have prepared. Alright, so thank you again for watching and all the support, and I will see you all in the comments. Goodbye for now.